What? Is it showing? Right. Welcome, everyone. It took me a while to get to go live, to actually go live. It's 9:53. I've got my fruit, my osanae with Shinran behind me. I have an altar with Amida Buddha, and I have Namo Amidabatsu over my shoulder. I'm going to light incense now and prepare for our first live service for the Orange County Buddhist Church. We wanted to start before 10, just like at OCBC, so everybody could come in, sit down, and get ready. We'll begin. I have a PowerPoint set up. We'll begin with Kanshyo, and then we will be chanting Sambutsuge. This is my makeshift stay-at-home pandemic Naijin. I have a bookcase behind me. Luckily, I still had a monitor from work. And the Naijin, the altar behind me, was donated to OCBC, and I was able to get it. The PK group donated it to me a while back, which was very nice. And the Amida Buddha statue appeared in the Kodo one day, which was very nice as well. So we get lots of donations anonymously throughout the temple, and they're always greatly appreciated. And I spent a long time on lighting, staging. I swear I'm not wearing swim trunks under my robes, I swear. So we'll begin in about 4 minutes. I could light my candle on the altar, but I don't want to burn my, I don't want to burn the wood. So the service order will be pretty much the same as any Sunday at OCBC. And we're hoping that a live service gives us a sense of community, being able to socialize when we're isolated. I think it's very important that we're just able to see each other and to experience something in the moment. The quality is probably a little bit better if I pre-record and then load the videos, upload the videos to YouTube. But this has a sense of immediacy and that we're sharing an experience together, and that we have a sense of community. So I think it's worth a little bit less quality for a little bit more intimacy. We won't be doing this every Sunday, but we will be having services every Sunday. They just may not be live. So this is kind of a special pilot to see how this goes. And please share your feedback. And in the tradition of OCBC, we will start exactly at 10 o'clock. We all learned this from Reverend Harada. We take out our iPhones, and when it hits exactly 10, the concho starts. So we will honor that tradition. 9:59. Please join me in Gasho. Namandats, 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 namandats. So I just wanted to go over some bookkeeping, and I want to thank you for attending this live service for the Orange County Buddhist Church. I know it's been a hard time. It's very difficult. We're losing interaction with one another. That may be one of the most difficult things is how much we need people. We're social animals, and we really need a Sangha. But before we get started, I wanted to show this one slide. On the Orange County Buddhist website, ocbuddhist.org, there's updates regarding the coronavirus. That first circle on the far right is the link to this YouTube live event. And then the circle below it, kind of in the middle, is a link to the OCBC service book in a PDF form for all the sutra chanting. So, I went there. We put this together. It's about 18 pages, and you can download the PDF and print it or view it from your computer online. And so inside this packet, we have right from the service book on page 33, the Sambutsuge, which we'll be chanting today. And you can use this at home, or I'll have the text behind me over my shoulder as we start. So again, please chant with me at home. I was going to add a choral effect to a recorded voice of mine, but I thought it would be better to just chant live with you, and you add the choral effect, if we can all chant together. So first we got show. Naman dots, naman dots, naman dots, naman dots. And we bring the service book or the printout or our hands to our head. We open to page 33. 고겐기기 해진무목요새 엠요 무요토샤 니치가츠마니 슈포엔요 가이시즈온페 윤약그즈목요라이 용엔 조세무린 쇼가그다이온 거르제포 가이몬쇼딘 산마이치에 히토금을요 슈쇼케 진다이젠넨 쇼부츠 오카이 그진진노 그공아이 타이 무묘요그는 세선요무 니노시시 진토금을요 그근고나이 지애진묘 고묘이소 신도나이센 난가사부츠 자이쇼 가노쇼니 미프게 나츠으세 조이 가이닌 조진 묘세 산말 지에이조 고세 토크부츠 프교 시간 이살 그끝 이사나이 온 계시으부츠 야쿠센노 그만 무료나이쇼 신요고냐 그요 이사이 시토쇼부츠 뜨녀그도 겐초흑야 그이묘 고자 쇼부츠 세카이 무프카게 무슈세츠도 고묘시쇼 헨지쇼 코크 묘세쇼님 이진난로 롱아사부츠 고그도 다이이치 고슈케묘 道場調節国女内音眠とそがと愛民到達一切十法来生心熱症状人が国経楽安穏動物神妙税外心象発願の意力少々欲自法生存知恵無下上路子孫知外信用定路心知食毒中願行承認冥福でナマンダブナマンダブナマンダブナマンダブナマンダブナマンダブがんにしくどく平等性際道恩母内心往生Namandavts, namandavts, 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 namandavts. Well, thank you very much. I personally find sutra chanting even more effective for myself than I do sitting in silent meditation. This may be my Jodo Shinshu training, but chanting is an immersive act where one's entire body begins to resonate with the teachings. And I feel so much different after I chant than before. So it's so much easier to talk about the Buddha Dharma after I sutra chant than before. So I'd like to begin with the Dharma talk. I wanted to mention that I'm going to go over this essay on the internet, on NPR. It's called Got Anger, Try to Name It. And the reason why I have these handouts is because I've used this before in adult study at the Orange County Buddhist Church and also for meditation service on Wednesday nights. And it talks about how to deal with anger. And anger is kind of a catch-all. It's a very vague and general term. And we're not really in touch with our feelings if we just yell. We know we're feeling something, but we don't know what it is. And I noticed when I gave this talk for adult study and meditation services it was in the abstract. It was kind of theoretical. I rarely get angry. I'm rarely under great stress. And so these are all hypothetical suggestions. But in the pandemic, being on lockdown since Friday the 13th in March, I'm beginning to feel emotions and I'm beginning to feel things that I haven't felt before. And I think I'm angry, but if I look a bit deeper, there's more to it than that. And we talk about being self-aware, but this is one of the techniques of being self-aware. Just screaming, I'm angry, or yelling at your spouse, I'm not angry, you're angry. But that doesn't really tell us anything. And it doesn't really help us get to a solution. So I'd like to talk about that today. I've never done this as a family service talk, but the meaning and the words behind this essay have really deepened with me over the last 2 or 3 weeks. When I start to have anxiety, when I start to become stir crazy, they call it a lockdown disease. Like supposedly next week is going to be the hardest week. And I have an urge to go back to OCBC and start to do things. And I realize I'm at the peak, right? I've been really good. And now that I'm getting to the crunch time, when it's really important that I follow the quarantine rules and I stay home and I use social distancing, I feel this urge, I've got to get out, it's over, I got to go back to church. But this is the exact wrong moment. Just decide it's time to go out. So I think I'm going to stay home and I'm going to design my courses for everydaybuddhist.org, but I won't film them yet. And so it's important to know what we're feeling and why. So I'd like to start with this advertisement campaign. When I was a kid and even recently, there was commercials all the time about got milk. And this is a great marketing slogan. It influenced Nike to say, just do it. And there's commercials on now for Arby's. We've got the meats. So these are these short little sayings in marketing campaigns, but it all started with got milk. And got milk is a yes, no. You either got it or you don't. I've got milk in my refrigerator right now. It's going to last me for a week or two. But you could ask a lot more questions, right? What kind of milk is it? Is it whole milk? Is it low fat? Is it non-fat? Is it 2%? Is it a pint, a quart, a gallon, a half gallon? And what if you run to the refrigerator and you find out it's goat's milk? So, these are simple yes, no questions, but they don't really tell us a lot. You could have milk, but maybe it's way past the expiration date. So I wanted to find a new ad that I'm starting, Got Anger. This looks like the little boy in the Got Milk image I just showed you. He's got steam coming out of his ears. We know he's very angry, but we don't really know why. And when we're young children, or we have young children, we always say, use your words. Don't just act out your emotions. Don't just chuck something across the room and hit the wall. Use your words. And so it's a big step when we first start to develop to be able to say out loud, I'm angry, rather than having steam come out of our ears. But over time, as adults, as we mature and we practice Buddhism, when we become more self-reflective, I think it's important to say, what is the exact emotion you're feeling? It's not anger. What is it? You have to really look deep and figure out, why am I feeling what I'm feeling? And once you know that, you can take steps to alleviate it. But just screaming, I'm angry, doesn't really give us anything to go on. It doesn't help. So this is the essay, Got Anger? Try Naming It to Tame It, by Micheline Ducliffe. She wrote this January 28th, 2019, and it's on the npr.org website. If you just Google this, it'll come up at the very top. I've read it and reread it, and I'm actually practicing it every day. Every day I feel something, and I'm able to name it, and then once I have it named, I can deal with it. So this is some of her reflections. She says, over the past 3 years, I've had one major goal in my personal life, to stop being so angry. Anger has been my emotional currency. I grew up in an angry home. Door slamming and phone throwing were basic means of communication. So these things can become habits that are passed on from generation to generation. She says, I brought these skills to my 20-year marriage. Why are you yelling? My husband would say, and she would scream back, I'm not. She'd retort, oh wait, on second thought, you're right, I'm yelling. She's yelling that she's not yelling. Then 3 years ago, an earthquake hit our home. We had a baby girl, and all I wanted was the opposite. I wanted her to grow up in a peaceful environment, to learn other ways of handling uncomfortable situations. So I went to therapy. And when I first read this, she said 3 years ago an earthquake hit. Because I live in Southern California, I took it literally. She meant a baby girl. She brought home a baby girl. And that really can be a major change to your household. You get less sleep. You're sick a lot more often. And you don't want to pass these habits on to your children. I think our kids model us. When parents say they don't think their kids listen to them, I think that's kind of true, but they really do model our behaviors. So I really think if we model and we show them kind of the ideal way to behave, they will model us. And I think it's a lot more important what we do than what we say. So what she suggests in this article is something called emotional granularity. You want to increase your emotional granularity. And what she means by this is that you start to really dig in, get out your thesaurus, and really pick the right word that really describes how you're feeling. And, I say English is kind of dualistic. I think it's dualistic in practice, but there really are a lot of words for anger. We just don't use many of them. So it's a little bit unfair to call English black and white and dualistic. How we use it, I think, is black and white and dualistic, perhaps. So I'm angry. It's just too broad. It's too general. It's a tantrum, a verbal tantrum. So she said you really have to burrow in and you have to find out if maybe you're displeased or dissatisfied. And I thought this was very interesting. There's a big difference between personal anger and political anger. And so I think this comes from India. If you're having an argument with somebody over policy, maybe the president or the Congress or the Speaker of the House, and you get an argument with a friend, it's very important that you realize that you're feeling political anger toward a policy and not personal anger against your friend or relative. So again, this is critical. This could save Thanksgiving. This could save Mother's Day. You could have political anger, but don't confuse it with personal anger. So if we get rid of personal and political, we just have anger. But it's really something quite different, those two. So here's another example in India. Different cultures, we can oftentimes learn a lot by seeing what other people do. It's hard to see ourselves clearly, but if we look at others, then we can reflect on ourselves. So in India, they have a treasure trove of different words for anger. They have one word that kind of represents the anger you feel like when eggplant hits hot oil. So that immediate sizzling anger. And if that's kind of anger you're feeling, then it's short-lived, right? It comes on strong, wait a minute or two and breathe through it and it'll be gone. The ancient Greeks had a term for short-term anger versus long-lasting anger. So the short-term anger is related to the eggplant falling into the burning hot oil. If it's short-term, like road rage, there's really no reason to ruin your day. It's going to be gone in 5 minutes. It's not worth the effort. And if it's long-term anger, then you really should focus on it and really talk it through. And this is something that you need to really work out. So if there's little things that your housemates do that irritate you, that's short-term. It's not worth the anger. If your kids take the dishes to the sink and they rinse them out, but they don't make it to the dishwasher, just put them in the dishwasher. They did 2 out of 3. And as Meatloaf says, that ain't bad. And then I really like this one. In Mandarin Chinese, we use a lot of Chinese kanji characters. in our Japanese Buddhist tradition, they actually have a specific word for anger directed towards yourself. And I hope this is accurate. I don't have my Nelson's English to Chinese and Chinese to English dictionary with me. It's locked away back in my office at OCBC. But these two characters is literally a combination of two characters. This happens all the time in Chinese. This is a compound. It's the words for regret and hate together represent self-hatred, a sense of regret and self-hatred. You regret something you did so much that you're angry at yourself. And this would be something what we'd really want to avoid in Buddhism. We don't want to make the problem worse by saying something we shouldn't have said. So here comes what I try to do. I think sometimes Buddhism maybe focuses too much on the problem and not on the solution. So we've looked at the problem and now we're going to try to look at the solution. There's definitely emerging evidence that just the act of putting a label on your feelings is a really powerful tool for regulation. It can keep the anger from overwhelming you. It can offer clues about what to do in response to the anger. And sometimes it can make the anger go away. They flag each other and say, I'm feeling number one, I'm feeling number two. So the one thing that really drives her crazy at work and with people, she found, is illogical anger. She drives her crazy when somebody makes a decision that's not based in logic or reason. It's emotional, it's irrational. That drives her crazy. She feels that coming on, she realizes it, and you can't argue with someone. If someone isn't gonna use logic as a basis for a decision, arguing with them about logic is not really constructive. Number two, hurry up anger. She gets very frustrated when things aren't going quickly enough or fast enough. I have number two. I'm very impatient and I can feel it coming. And usually when I rush, I break things. The Osanaye holder back here, I broke one of them yesterday because I was in a hurry moving around and it tipped over. And then number three, daisonophos anger, a Greek word. Dai means two, and sonophos means sound. So she gets very frustrated when there's too much noise, or her husband does, I remember. Her husband doesn't like it if the dog's barking and the alarm is going off on the stove and the baby's crying and the TV's too loud. So he begins to lose his temper. So when she hears that, what's the solution? She puts the dog outside, she turns off the TV, she presses the timer on the stove, and she picks up the baby, and then it's all over. So they call these things out to one another when they're getting frustrated. And you could do this in your relationships, especially with teenagers. You could find out what's coming over you and be able to name it. So now when my husband says, I have daisonophos anger, we know exactly what to do. Put the dog on the porch, pick up the baby, and I know he just wants some peace and quiet. So I wanted to end with this. The conclusions, you're supposed to talk about what you're going to talk about, and then talk about what you were going to talk about, and then explain what you were going to talk about. Anger is a valid emotion. It's not negative. You are feeling something. It's very normal right now to feel stress and anxiety. I don't think the goal of Buddhism is to get rid of these feelings. I think it's to be able to better cope with them. If you're ever going to be nervous and anxious, it's in a 100-year pandemic. This hasn't happened since 1918. This is a big deal. There's a lot going on. Breathe. Be aware of how you're feeling. Identify it by name, and then you're able to manage it well. So our survival, if we can stay calm and follow the social distancing and not run out next week because I've been doing it 3 weeks and I'm ready, I'm getting itchy. I think next week is the worst time for me to go out. It would be really ironic if I stayed home and it wasn't that bad and I went nuts and I went running out this Monday, and I'm going to make the right choice. I took that moment. The other thing I wanted to tell you, and this is another Dharma talk, we talk about impermanence, and we talk about the Buddha and the Four Gates. He realizes that he's going to get old. he's going to get sick, and someday he's going to die. So our youth is impermanent, our health is impermanent, and our life is impermanent. But one thing, we're only talking about the problem. The solution is that the pandemic is not permanent. This virus will come and go. Human beings will move on. The Spanish flu is gone from 1918. We survived it. This will be gone. And in 6 months, we're going to sit around and say, oh man, you remember what it was like? And it'll seem like 1,000 years ago. It'll seem like it never happened. And we'll have a hard time remembering what it felt like. Even bad things are impermanent, not just the good things. So I wanted to leave you with a couple announcements. We are going to have our Hanamatsuri service. Somehow, Reverend Wonder and I are going to do it together. I have a feeling she'll record and I'll record, and then it'll be, what I really want to try is we both chant separately, and then I merge the sound. And we're going to see an example of that in the next slide. So April 12th, Hanamatsuri special service for the birth of the Buddha. And we don't have the white elephant, but we've got images of the white elephant. And the last thing I'd like to share with you about this idea of sharing voices. This is Annette from the Vista Buddhist Temple. She's a great flautist. She plays the flute. I like it so much better than the church organ. And what she did is she did a trio with herself. I don't understand it all, but she's playing different tempos, different keys, and different melodies, almost like a barbershop quartet. So she recorded herself 3 times and put it together, and she is going to play Ondoko-san 2 for us. And let me see. Sorry. We have this in our service book on page 81. So I'd like you to all either, this will be our closing musical offering for the service. You could sit quietly and just listen, or you could go ahead and sing along with her. Here we go. Thank you very much for ending our service. Once the stream is ended, I will be able to post it with my camera. I'm talking to living human beings, which I haven't done much lately. So I really want to thank you for practicing with me and giving me something important to do with you. Thank you very much. Please join me in Gasho. Naman dots. Naman. Naman doubts, naman doubts, naman doubts, naman doubts. Thank you very much. Till next time.